Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That's my lame version of Elvis. I can't do a good impression. On the other hand, I can do a pretty good impression of that creepy guy from Lord of the Rings, Gollum. I can stand there and say, "Oh, yes, precious." Now, about half of you looked kind of creeped out. The rest of you looked like you want me to do the whole speech in that voice. And that kind of creeps me out. No, I can't do that. And I came here tonight to really talk about attitude. My talk isn't about getting rich or making $1 million, because it's true that they say money can't buy you happiness. But I will say this, it'll help you suffer in style. And true to my central point here about attitude, if I leave you with nothing else tonight, I want you to remember this. Knowledge and wisdom and skill and experience have to be acquired over time. But you can adopt a life-changing attitude in an instant. And that's the story I want to share with you. Now, a little while back, actually, just before I did this talk at Mo Mendes Richmond Hill, I went buying with my wife. And I go shopping. I'm a man, so I go buying. Women go shopping, men go buying. I'm serious. I walk into the store, in and out, 6 minutes, I'm done. I wanted a shirt. I saw the shirt. I liked it. I bought it. I brought it home. My wife hated it. She looks at me. I try the shirt on. I said, "What do you think?" She says, "It makes you look like a gigolo." Now, I was undaunted. I stood there. I looked at my wife. I said, "How you doing?" But my wife is not a woman to be gainsaid. She starts telling the whole family about this shirt. And it becomes known as the gigolo shirt. A couple days later, we find out that one of our younger cousins has decided, her boyfriend asked her to marry. They're getting married in the spur of a moment. Take a guess what I wore to the wedding. But it gets better. It fit right in with the theme, man. I love Hindu weddings. The trousers I wore matched the groom's outfit, and the gigolo shirt was a perfect match to the bride's outfit. To the point where I was specifically asked to sit in with them during the Hindu ceremony and be in all the pictures. Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony. And that, my friends, is how my wife learned not to make fun of what I like to wear. And, the story is, a lot of times people think you go to Wall Street and just instantly become successful or whatever. And a lot of times there's a lot of heartache and hurt and just, disaster associated with it. Prior to that, just to give you a little of my background in 30 seconds or less, came out of an extremely abusive family. Long story short, the only one of my siblings who has never stabbed me threw me down a flight of stairs when I was 4 years old. That was my first experience, and unfortunately not my last, of being covered in my own blood. And so believe me, I won't stand here tonight and tell you always have to be positive and always have a great attitude, because that's not enough. I could stand here and have a great attitude about being, one day playing center for the Toronto Raptors, but that's not going to happen, So, but it's not enough. There's what I call constructive attitudes, productive attitudes. There are circumstantial attitudes, attitudes we get from things we've been through, good and bad. And let me tell you, I had some attitudes because of that childhood. I go and get into Princeton. I think my life is going to be perfect, right? Turned out that same family went and told some lies. Everybody believed it. I lost everything. I ended up on the street, homeless after Princeton. And that was a hard journey. One night I sneak into a building to find a warm place to sleep. And as I got out of the cold and I started to get warm, I realized just how bad I smelled. And I'll be honest with you, I actually started to cry. Grown man, broke down crying. But fast forward a couple years, I finally get a break and I end up going to Wall Street. And I actually said it to everybody I knew. I said, look, when my license goes through the approval and the background check is done, I'm coming out of the corner like Mike Tyson. And so I was determined, and I had an attitude. And my first day, we had this huge meeting. It's a really old firm, very conservative, run by a bunch of white-haired Republicans. And they'd been in business for over 100 years. One of the oldest firms in the business. First day, huge meeting. President of the company is leading the sales meeting that morning. And in walks his biggest client. The guy's got hundreds of millions with the firm. Really important. I walk in, and that day, I nearly got fired on my first day because of what I was wearing. You guys don't seem surprised. Well, I wore that day a suit that was bright royal Walmart sign blue with an equally bright red shirt and red snakeskin shoes. Oh, yeah. And now you're probably starting to realize that this whole gigolo theme is not a recent development. So I walk into that meeting, and the meeting, I don't have a clue. I didn't notice how everyone was reacting. I was being stared at. There's 800 brokers in the room. We go back to our office, which was the section I belonged to had gotten bought out from another firm. So our office, we called it the Vampire Quad. We did not see the light of day because there were no windows. It was an old conference room. And there was about 30 or 40 of us stuck in that room, straight out of the movie Boiler Room. I kid you not, my boss actually looked like the main character from that movie. And we even used the same lines. And so I'm waiting for my license to go through. It's going to take a couple days. And my boss is on the phone, and he looks like he's just cringing during this conversation. I can't hear what's going on. And he gets off the phone. He says, Sam, we got to talk. I was like, what's up? He said, well, you almost got fired. Can you guess why? I don't have a clue. He said, it's because of what you're wearing. The president of the company said to me, he looks like an effing pimp. Does he want to sell stocks or drugs? He says, now, I did manage to convince him not to fire you on 2 conditions. The first is that you promise to never wear anything remotely like that ever again. And the second is this. He's going to be in the office today until about noon. If he sees you in the hallway, you're fired. So my Wall Street career that I thought was going to be so brilliant is not getting off to a good start, man. But I will openly admit that wasn't what was bothering the most, man. I was feeling totally famished. What was really bothering was the fact that I really needed to pee. Oh, man, longest couple hours of my life. Finally, at about 11 o'clock in the morning, I decided to take the risk, man. Ducked my head out in the hallway, saw if the coast was clear, ran to the men's room, repeated the procedure on the way back, and let me tell you, that was the most nervous and tense 8 seconds of my life. So I get back, the boss leaves, so now I'm free to roam the hallways. I'm walking around, I'm thinking I'm cool, I'm strutting a little bit, right? And then I see somebody do this. I'm like, what's going on? And as I said before, fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony. That day was the New York premiere of the first Spider-Man movie. So inevitably, by about 1:30 that afternoon, I got to hear somebody say, hey, Spidey, how's it going? 1,100 brokers in the firm, 800 in that building alone. Nobody knows my name, but they all know I'm Spidey. It got to a point when a new person came in, I didn't even give them my name. I was like, just call me Spidey. And it was funny at first, but then I realized they were making fun of me. And I'll admit, at the time I had some issues of insecurity, a little low self-esteem, so it bothered me to be made fun of. But I figured, let me turn this around on them. They're like, hey, Spidey, what's going on? I'd say, I'm slinging webs, man. I'm catching clients. I'm going to outproduce everybody in this firm combined. I'm talking some crap, man. And then my license finally comes through. I come to work the next day in a brown suit. My boss gets on the phone, leaves a voicemail for the president of the company, says, just wanted to let you know Peter Parker showed up for work today. And so I get on the phone, and I start pounding the phone. I'm determined to be the next beast. And before that was going on, I was sneaking up on the high producers, listening to them on the phone, trying to imitate them. And let me tell you, one of the worst things you can do is try to be somebody else. Oh, my goodness. I get on the phone, and I start pitching hard. And it gets to a point where the whole room goes quiet when I'm pitching. And I think I must be good. And oddly enough, there was a man in the room by the name of James Ryan. And I kid you not, you're not going to believe me, he called himself the Rhino. Yeah. And so the Rhino says to me, you know why we listen to you pitch? I'm thinking, yeah, because I'm good, right? He said, no, it's because you say some really crazy shit to people. And soon enough, I start to realize I wasn't as good as I thought I was going to be. I mean, people were telling me no in ways that I can only describe as deeply pornographic. It was bad, and now my great attitude was just starting to evaporate. And it was just falling apart on me. But I'm determined, and I'm working 16-hour days. I'm making more phone calls than everybody else if I'm not as good as they are. And people keep telling me no, and I'm just failing miserably. And I start thinking, I'm Spidey, right? What am I going to do? I've sold all this noise. I've talked all this crap. And then I'm looking at a lead card for a company. It was a broadcasting company. They did $200 million in sales the prior year, had 1,400 employees. And I started thinking, Spidey is not the most powerful superhero. But he'll get into a fight with the Juggernaut, or with the Hulk, or with the Rhino, and he'll win. Now, I know you're saying it's fiction. They write it that way. But work with me here. Within that context, the reason why Spider-Man can do that is that he's resourceful. Spidey always has an angle. With the Hulk, he'll frustrate him and just piss him off so much that he doesn't know what he's doing. With the Juggernaut, he'll trap him under a mountain of rubble or whatever. So I'm thinking, what can I do? And I'm looking at this lead card, and I said, wait a minute. They got 1,400 employees. They've got to have a retirement plan. And in 2002, retirement plans were getting slaughtered. So I made a few phone calls, found out who the decision maker was on their 401k plan. Turned out it had been worth $70 million. It was down to $45 million. To this day, it was the easiest sale I have ever made in my life. And I went on to capture, in the first few months, over $90 million in new client assets. And oddly enough, I actually did bring in more new client assets than the other 1,100 brokers combined. Now, I don't say that to boast or brag because I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I attribute it all to that shift in attitude. And again, the one thing I would love to leave with you tonight, because I had hoped, I came here with an agenda, I had hoped to motivate you, but I also want to inspire you if I can. Because motivation can change what you do. Inspiration will change who you are. And that's the journey we're really on. So remember, wisdom, knowledge, skill, experience, they're all acquired over time. But you can adopt a life-changing attitude in just an instant. I'm Sam Medina. Just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.